Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the channel, and we are back here with more work, a lot more work going on the Runaway Train. I have decided to dive in deeper than I had initially intended and remedy a lot of my mistakes that I made back in the day when I built this, and take care of a lot of things that I wasn't too happy with. So we're gonna dive into it, and I'm gonna kind of walk you through what I've been up to, and I do have my computer up because I have a bunch of screenshots that I took from the movie itself for like photo reference on certain things. So just some nice pictures of certain aspects that I can go back and reference from time to time. But a lot of work going on here. Like I said, basically going back and fixing up a lot of issues that I initially had made, and most of this was because back when I built this, I think it was early 90s, when I had initially built this train. There was some things that, you know, back then I was pausing a VCR tape to actually see what I needed to see. There wasn't really online pictures at that time. There wasn't really online anything at that time that I could use for any sort of reference at all, other than the original VHS. So now that I have better supplies, better technology, I am utilizing all of that to upgrade this whole set of locomotives visually. You guys have seen how I redid a small tank frame, and we got some better electrical going on in there with DCC and sound. So we'll just kind of dive into some of the issues that I'm working on taking care of. You guys will notice I'm experimenting with repainting the non-snowy areas. That's going to be kind of a job in of itself. You guys can see I've done some stripping, and you can see some of the original paint that's on these locomotives. This one was a Conrail. I believe this one was a CNO or BNO. And then same thing with the A unit. That was either a CNO or BNO. But first thing we'll kind of touch on is the all-weather windows on these two GP7s. So I did not have at the time the correct all-weather windows. I had brass 3-pane windows, which were incorrect, and so now I have I believe these are Athearn 2-pane all-weather windows. And something else that I had messed up on was I had put them on both sides. These locomotives in real life did not have all-weather windows on both sides. So now we just have, it's kind of hard to see. You can kind of see the reflective of the new glass in there. That's going to get refogged. And then, of course, these will be refogged as well once I do some more weathering work. But I've got some painting to do. Something else that I'm taking care of is if anyone has had these old Athearn Blue Box GP7s, you know they are set up with a winterization hatch over the front fan and nothing over the back fan. Basically how these are set up on my Grand Trunk units. That's how these were made. And they had dynamics. So when I had initially done this, I cut out the dynamics. I had to cut back quite a ways to the original fan, which is actually still underneath there. And I can actually show you guys some of the crude work in here. I'm not sure what this yellow tape is in here. That was in there when I acquired this unit. But you guys can see my my long strips of styrene that I had glued to the inside of the shell to give me a base to build all this on here. I basically took two GP38-2 non-dynamic shell inserts. I cut them down the middle because they were too wide, or whatever the issue was. They were definitely too long from like point to point, from there to there. Utilized the sides to get the nice rounded corners on these, and then had to do a filler strip with styrene, and then back to where these would have originally been. Let's see. They would have been mounted this way, roughly right about there, but, you know, not as tall, and, you know, all molded in. That was all molded. That was all one part of the shell. So I had to cut that on in sections and kind of deal with all that. So my issue was, when I did that, I lost the... well, you know, there was no front fan. It was just the winterization hatch. So, when I had built these up on boxes, I think I originally had them like this, right about here. So one, they were facing the wrong way. Two, I didn't have any forward fan that was not inside the winterization hatch, because, you know, all that was just an empty space after I cut it all out, because that was in there. So, you know, at the time, still learning quite a bit. This was highly experimental for me at the time. I was used to just normal kit building and stuff like that. So this was really my first kind of custom, built from scratch type project. So a lot of stuff was wrong here. So what we're doing now is a couple things. Couple things with the winterization hatch. You guys can see I've added even more styrene to the bottom. I had added styrene strips to these at the bottom, you guys can kind of see. But they still weren't tall enough, and I was never happy with these still not being the right height. So we got them up to a pretty good height now. They look pretty close to the original. And now when we mount these, we're going to mount them facing this way, and we're going to back it up all the way to the sand hatch there at the very top, because that's how the real ones are. So now, and I can actually do a little side-by-side demonstration of how it was versus how it's going to be now. Alright, let's try to set these up here. Trying to think, yeah, it was pretty much right at the end of that. That's where I had that. So just kind of rough looking. So that's how it was, how I had it. Very wrong. And now this is how it's going to be. Very correct per the prototype. So these fans are actually cut out from a old blue box A unit that I had that was doing nothing. And basically I cut them out and then filed them all the way down on the bottom. You guys can actually see the imprints of where all these louvers are actually molded into. That's how thin I had to get that piece to get the surround off of it, but still keep all of the bolts. Not hard, just kind of time consuming, and you definitely want to take your time trying to extract parts like that. So Now this is flipped around in the correct orientation. It's pushed back as far as I can push it back, and that's how they were on the real units. And then I have the fan, the forward fan, that's going to... it's not oriented very correct right now, but it'll be straightened and basically right up against that housing. So that's how it should be. That's how I had it. So we're doing some big fixes. That always bothered me. Later in years, once I was actually able to see overhead photos of these, or even see photos of them, period, you know, something clearer than a videotape, I knew that was an issue that I had to remedy eventually, and now is my eventually. So we're taking that crap and we're making it a lot better. So, and you guys can see the nice height that those have now. Like I said, they were taller, but they were just a little too low. It wasn't looking right for me yet. So just that little bit of styrene on the bottom kicked those up far enough to where I like how high those are sitting. So we're taking care of that. Now, the only things that I'm not taking care of is one of these units, and I can actually, let me scroll through my photos here quick while you guys stare at the top of that. Alright, so this is 1801. This was the lead. I think they're technically calling these like a GP7U just for the sake of keeping it simple. I'm just going to call this a GP7. This was the lead GP7 in the consist. Now you guys can see it is not an arch cab. They, if you look really closely, and you know, with being able to pause YouTube and take screenshots nowadays, you can see that the cab on this one is taller than the long hood. Now, yes, these arch cabs or steeple cabs are a little bit taller, but this is definitely up taller than that even. And then, of course, they had actually built the whole top of this nose. And the top of this nose was even just a little bit taller than the top of the cab. If you watch really closely in the movie, you'll see stuff like that. But that's how they modified this unit. This unit, before the movie, pretty much looked just like this. They built the fake nose to match the units. And then this one had 4 tall exhausts. Now, at the time, the other one only had 2 tall exhausts, so they actually removed the length off of these 2 inner ones just to have the top ones, which seems like a lot of technical stuff to really worry about, but I guess they wanted those 2 units really matching each other for whatever reason. This one, I'll see if I can find the other photo. This one, it's actually missing the most forward fan is plated over, and these vents on the sides are covered. I'm not doing that on mine, just to really make these 2 look even more alike, and I'm not adding 2 lower exhausts on one of these units. I'm just not messing with that stuff. I want these 2 to look exactly the same pretty much, except for like the little bit of the damage and weathering. But basically that's what one of these units looked like pre and post movie. You know, of course, they both actually did have the taller winterization hatch. That's something that Alaska Railroad did. These units were from the Army, and they had the Alco trucks on them. That is something that was done to these. And let me see. I do have a little... let's see here. Yeah, I got a few photos we can scroll through and look at. We'll look through some cool stuff here. So this is 3010. This was the lead locomotive that was used for the majority of the movie. If you know the movie well, you'll notice that in the first scene, when you very first see these locomotives, it's completely different locomotives. The lead unit in that set, that was actually filmed in America. Well, Alaska's part of America. That was filmed in the connected United States. This unit was shown as a GP38-2, but then for the rest of the movie, it was shown as this unit right here, 3010, a GP40-2. And the model actually used for the wreck scene was like a GP35. So, you know, stuff that normal people just watching a thriller wouldn't pick up on, but of course us rail fans notice that stuff like a sore thumb. But this is actually the original unit that was used in the Alaska filming part of it. Here is the other GP7, 1810. Now, I'm not sure. This one definitely used to be a high hood. You can see the goofy windows that they put in these things. I'm not sure if this one was still a high hood. I think it was a low hood when the filming happened. And then they had built up the high nose. For whatever reason, they decided to do that on both of them. I think they might have done that because the first units that they used, in the very first scene that you see these locomotives, I think those were originally high hoods, so they had to kind of change these up to make them resemble the locomotives. Because if you really watch those first few scenes, there's a lot of back and forth. There's some close-up of these trucks, but then the further away shots are of a completely different locomotive, so a lot of incontinuities there that you'll notice. But yeah, this is the other original unit used for that movie, and this was the very rear unit, and which is this unit here, because the railings are okay on the back of it, but they're fucked up on the front, and then the railings on the front of this one are good, and then they're fucked up on the back. So that's my lead unit, my lead GP7, and then this is my rear GP7 in the consist. But this just kind of shows you what they actually looked like pre and post filming. There's 1801 with the kind of standard EMD cab on it. And I love how tall these winterization hatches is. I don't know, there's just something about it that I really like. There's another good shot of that. So there's 1500. That's the A unit that was used in the filming. And that unit is actually at a railroad museum somewhere. There's 3010. More shots of 3010. Now this is actually cool. 3010, and I believe this was after filming, was actually in a wreck. It hit something. I think it hit a truck. Fucked up the front railings pretty bad. Even dented the fuel tank. But I thought this was pretty interesting that the actual locomotive that was portrayed to be in the wreck in the movie actually got in a wreck, after the movie was filmed sometime. So I thought that was kind of ironic. And also this kind of shows like a normal level of railroad wreckage, unlike the extreme that they show in the movie. There's another shot of 1810, just 2 tall stacks, not 4 stacks, so I think that's why they went ahead and cut the stacks down on the other unit to match these two. And then this one's the same way. The fan is plated over right here. You guys can kind of see that. It's going to be shitty quality, but you can see the open louvers on just a little bit of the open louvers on the top of that other fan. And then that one's plated up, and then the side intake is plated over as well. And also, no all-weather windows on the conductor side of the cab, just two giant mirrors that are folded up in that shot right there. This was 3010 after the rebuild. Nothing to really write home about other than the extension off of the back. And then the window change, some changes, but this is very, very post-movie. There's 1810 when they were working on the trucks of it. It was still surviving after this photo. I know this kind of looks like a death photo of it, but there are later photos of this where it was back up and going. Another one of 1500. Early photo of 1500. There it is at whatever museum it's at. Another shot of 1810 with some spark arresters on it. So that was pretty late in its career. Nice black and white one of that. Okay, so here's the most modern photo I could find of 1800. The GP7 that was in the lead. You guys can see this one doesn't have the fan at all. It's not even plated over. It's just the fan itself is removed. And then those that vent is just non-existent. Now, you know, this time in its life no longer had the winterization hatch over the rear fan. Other than that, still pretty much looked, other than the paint, of course, pretty much looked how it looked when it was under Alaska Railway ownership. And then there it is in Alaska Railway ownership. No all-weather window on this side, just the operator side. I'm not going to fool around with trying to find like big-ass mirrors to put on the other side, because you just don't see that stuff in the movie. But that just kind of shows you guys what these units looked like without all the movie makeup that they received. You guys can see the all-weather window on the operator side. So that's just some stuff there, but like I said, we're remedying this, or making a remedy, finally fixing up this whole rear fan situation that I completely fucked up pretty bad there. But like I said, my younger years, you couldn't really see what was going on. Didn't really know what was really going on up there, how they had it. But so we're fixing that. We've already taken care of the all-weather window situation on these. And then I'm going to set these aside. I'll just put them on my laptop. So some more fixes for those. The F7 did a little bit of stripping on this. You guys can actually see some of the original paint underneath there, just to kind of make things a little bit smoother for when I repaint these. And then I'm taking care of my the incorrect the winterization hatch. I had one of the long style ones because I could not find these in the 90s. This is a nice brass casted one where you actually have to insert the thing. They come pretty rough. I have a finished one right here, or an unfinished one right here. They're pretty rough. The overcast from when it's molded is this is some pretty thick stuff for it being brass. It's really hard to work with, honestly. It's almost like it's a pretty thick grade of brass. It's not quite as malleable as normal brass is. But they come pretty rough. And they give you like this to cut and fit in there, which is kind of a pain in the ass, especially just to get it like straight to where it doesn't look like shit. But we got that. It's a double height one, but it still wasn't tall enough, so I added some more styrene to the bottom of that. And now this will have the correct style. This is the style that I had from chopping up another GP7, and it was too long. Of course, not tall enough, even with the extensions that I put on there. You guys can see some of it broke off when I peeled that off of there. But this is what it, a little bit more correct. Not quite as square and boxy as it should be. These units actually came with a pretty boxy. This one's a little bit more curvy, but it's good enough. It'll look way more prototypical for this unit. It sits up high enough now. It's the right size, so it's nice fixing that issue. Other than that, other than the repainting that I'm going to be doing on this unit, that's really the only thing that I'm fixing up on this. I had already went back and replaced the one window that I had broken out. Actually, the two windows that I had broken out for the scene in the movie, just because I kind of took this back in time a little bit. More post-rec than later post-rec. Still post-rec, of course, because the post-rec just is way more cooler version than the pre-rec version. So we're taking care of that. I need to do a little bit more fitment work with this to get it to sit down, because I am working on a curved surface, so I have to go in and cut out a little bit of that styrene in the middle, whoops, and get that to fit up there a little bit better. So we got that going on. And then the lead unit, of course, is getting some work. I've already replaced, this is on here, glued in place. I didn't have the correct length of the winterization hatch here. And I'll show you guys. This is the winterization hatch that I had initially put on there. And it just was not the right kind. This is the right style. And it actually pushes this little vent piece here forward, which is actually how that unit is. So took care of that. I actually had to, when I had put this one on originally, and you guys can actually see there's some holes drilled in there. That was for my little Manny to stand in. I know if you've seen my past videos, you've seen my little Manny. He's even got his fucked up hand there with the blood on it. A little bit of snow on his face and his clothes. But I put some little brass rods in his feet to help him hold up. So I'm going to have to kind of measure out two nice spots for him to stand in and drill those into the casting, so that way I can still put him on there for the famous ending scene, which I love. And then I took care of something else. I had this piece mounted on the front. It was a little too straight from side to side, so I was looking at some pictures and I had to mount that at a little more of an angle. So I got a little bit of paint work to touch up on the front. But all these units are being completely repainted except for the snowy parts, which is going to be a task. But in the movie, and it's shown in pictures that I've been able to find a lot better. So right now, I have all four of these units basically kind of the same color. These two are supposed to be more of like a rusty brownish color, and these two are going to be a little bit of a darker color. And I kind of already started to experiment with some repainting on this one, as you guys can see. But I need to go through my paints and try to find like the correct colors for these. Anything that doesn't have snow on it, I'm basically going to repaint. So it's going to be a very tedious task, because I don't want to try to redo some of this snow. Now, of course, I'm going to have to redo some snow on certain areas, not really on this winterization hatch, but I did a lot of work to these two to remove them and get them standing taller, and I've got to re-weather these new fans, or weather those new fans, period. So I'm definitely going to have to get my pastels back out, grind up some more pastel, and kind of make my slurry that I talked about in a previous video to re-weather some of that stuff. And then I'm going to have to re-weather and repaint this winterization hatch. This one's going to not really have any snow on it because it was pretty black and dark and sooty because it's like right in front of the exhaust. Or right behind the exhaust, I should say. But pretty much anything that I don't like, I'm taking care of right now because I want this to be the last time I really dive into these. I want to be able to run them soon. At least in the next 2 months. I think I'll have a chance to run these in about 2 months or so. So I'm going to work really hard to get these done and take care of whatever I want to take care of. Like I said, there's a few little things, like I'm not going to mess around with putting an EMD style cab in one of these and removing these fans. I'm not messing with any of that shit. I'd rather have a little bit more continuity with those units than what the movie actually had. The only other big issue that I'm not taking care of is I'm not rebuilding an entire locomotive just because these vents are wrong. I've talked about this before. At the time when I built this, all I had was a early GP40-2. I could not find in any local hobby shops a late era with the more upgraded style of radiator vents on the side there. Just couldn't find it at the time, and I really don't feel like trying to recreate this entire locomotive, especially since I did so awesome on this. I really don't want to have to like try to do that again. So that's just going to stay out as it's the right type of locomotive. It's just an early version. So I'm just going to be okay with that. But a lot of these little vent covers and fans and stuff like that, a lot of that stuff was like really bugging me big time. Same thing with that I originally used a big tank frame. Like I said, I did not have a small tank frame available at the time. I basically got these units and whatever was on them is what got used. I just did not have a lot at the time in the early 90s to work with. And then, like I said, just picture-wise, I didn't have all these pictures that I have on my laptop now. I didn't have that stuff to work with. I have a ton... See, I need to be careful with this unit so I don't bust anything off the front of that. I have a ton of screenshots here that I've saved from the movie itself, and you know, just having YouTube, having the internet, being able to screenshot this stuff, save them on a laptop. You know, technology, I might not know a lot, but just the pictures is pretty nice to have. So definitely using that stuff. Here you guys can kind of see how I have the speaker mount in there, and you guys can see how I had to completely remove that fan. Oh, like, I kind of went off topic there, way off topic. This one was wide enough to where it actually covered that fan. This one's a little bit skinnier, and it did not fit over the fan, so I had to completely erase the fan off of that and get that to fit. So, we got that fixed. You guys can see I have the speakers mounted in there. They are mounted on foam. You guys heard it had pretty good sound. Or actually, I don't know. I did get the sound on there, but I didn't do a video with the shell on the chassis mounted. Because this was technically kind of done just sitting there, and I kept looking at stuff, and I'm like, let's take care of it. So now I'm taking care of everything that I need to. All these little details, these fans, the winterization hatches, I'm just taking care of all that stuff. We're completely repainting the locomotives, and going to be touching up some snow on some stuff, and just doing a lot of rework that, you know, it's been bothering me over many years, and now's the time. I've got the time to work on these. They're out they're here. I've already stripped stuff off, so I'm going to get these done before we continue with any other Grand Trunk stuff. I do have some Grand Trunk and some other stuff coming in from a good friend of mine. But I'm going to focus on these and just get these done how I want them to. So you guys are definitely going to see a few more update videos on these units. I think once I kind of start the painting process, I'll bring you guys back. I'm going to get all this stuff mounted and glued in place, and take care of some of that stuff. So yeah, I'm diving into these even deeper than what I thought I was going to. Basically having them out that time was just to give them new wheels, new trucks, or new, not truck frames, but just the gearboxes without the gears in them. And then completely repower and upgrade all the electrical and sound in the lead unit. That's all I planned on doing. And then it sat on... I was busy with work, and it just kind of sat out there, and I just kept looking at stuff, and I'm like, eh. Like, it sucks to tear apart stuff, even if it's wrong. It just sucks to kind of, you know, basically destroy what you've worked on, but it's going to be for the best. It's going to take a little time, but I think once I'm done with all the rework on these, they're going to look 100 times better, and I'm going to be way happier with the overall finish. So that's what we're going with. This unit, as you guys can tell, is a former Conrail unit. Number 5883. You guys can even see the original number kind of showing through there. So yeah, a lot of work ahead. A lot of stuff to deal with. A lot of things to go back and take care of, but I feel better now that I'm actually into these steps now. Just the initial breaking parts off and stripping paint and weathering, and it kind of sucks, but once you actually start fixing things and getting things back together, then it feels a little bit better. So make some more progress on these, and I'll bring you guys back. So kind of a long video, but that's what I got going on right now. So hopefully you guys enjoy the progress on these units, and until next time, take care.